Welcome to Advanced Computers with Dura Community and Education Services. This is a recording of me reading through Week 1's notes. Welcome to Advanced Computers Online. This course will contain all of the computer basics before adding to and challenging you to learn new and different computer programs. For returning students who have completed intermediate, flexible or intro computers, new challenges will be presented, as well as more advanced techniques and all new programs. We will learn about Microsoft Word and how to create mail merges, headers and footers, tables and advanced formatting, create documents, as well as saving, deleting and organizing files for maximum efficiency. Learn how to navigate the internet, set up an email account and be introduced to sending and receiving emails. Time will also be given to content that you want to cover, so get your topics and questions ready. As this course is being run online for the first time, we will work together to find the best way to do this and to make it work for everyone. I constantly strive to make my content better, so any feedback or critique will be greatly appreciated. Here we have just some information about the document. Here we have the induction and course overview. Week 0, we've already completed. We did that online together for most of you. Today is obviously the first date. It will be running every Thursday. The general expectations of the course is that you attend every day. Obviously not every day, but every Thursday. It is hoped that you will be able to arrive on time. This is going to be very flexible in terms of the course, as you will have this recording to refer back to. Sessions will be run in 3 blocks. Once again, this is flexible enough for discussion and may change from week to week, but on the whole, I think a 9:30 to 10:30 session is very good to start the day. There'll then be a break until 11:30, where we will come back and work until 1 p.m. and then finally one session from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. I think we can play around with these numbers a bit as well. Between sessions, students will be expected to read over provided materials, watch provided videos or listen to provided audio, complete tasks and ask for assistance whenever needed. Student expectations. Students would expect to gain an understanding of computer basics as well as more advanced skills. Microsoft Office will be covered, as well as privacy and security. You will learn basic computer skills in Microsoft Office, build upon existing skills and learn new skills and programs. You will access online materials, including documents, videos and audio. You will access the trainer directly with a range of software applications and services. You will ask questions at any time during class, even outside of the 3 session blocks. Myself as a trainer is always available for assistance. Expected outcomes: increased level of computer skills, as well as confidence to use the internet and download software safely. Students would also expect to have created notes in their own notebooks or word processing program. Students will become proficient in the uploading of completed tasks for verification and valuable feedback. Proficiency in the use of online learning tools, which will aid in further online studies. We're going to go over some OH&S later on in the course, but please always keep yourself as safe as you can. And make sure you're sitting comfortably, you have good light, and that you don't take any silly risks. As I mentioned before, attendance, to get what's considered a passing grade in an ACFE course, you are expected to attend at least 80% of the classes. If there's any problem with that, please do contact me, and as this course is flexible, there are things that we can work out. Here we see a rundown of the 8 weeks and what will be covered in each of those weeks. Week 0 was getting set up with Zoom and Discord, along with Google Classroom. These are the 3 programs we'll be using the most to run this course. Week 1, which is today, the first session, will be introductions, accessing and uploading files, Google Forms, that's if we need them, and advanced Microsoft Word or a free alternative. Week 2 will be advanced Microsoft PowerPoint or an alternative free software. Week 3 is going to be programming with Scratch. Week 4 is going to be Microsoft Access. We might change this one up for something else if Access is going to be a problem. This is actually would be a good place to have things that you guys want to do. Week 5 is going to be Microsoft Excel, or once again a free alternative. Week 6 will be Publisher, or free alternative. Week 7 will be student-driven content, as well as an under the hood, looking at what's actually inside your computer, what you can do to upgrade it. Additional hardware in this day and age of online learning, things like webcams and microphones would be a very good topic to cover. And also some troubleshooting, what to do when your computer goes wrong. Week 8 will be about privacy and security, including mobile devices. This student book that you have received has content that will be used during the entire course. It is designed to be paired with the presentation that your trainer will present each week, and also serves as a place for you to take notes. Obviously, with this being an online course, it is recommended that you would use a notebook and pen or paper. Obviously, with this being an online course, it would be recommended that you use a notepad and either a pen or pencil to take notes. I think that would be really useful. Activities have been included within this book that will extend the student's learning and allow for practice of important computer skills and/or concepts. Although space has been provided within this book for completing activities, you will also occasionally receive additional handouts or forms that would need to be completed and returned or retained. Some pages have space deliberately left blank, and some pages are left completely blank. This is to allow space for note-taking or to group information in a more logical way. Note-taking is highly encouraged, as you will keep the book at the end of the course and will become an invaluable resource in the future. Connecting in classes for online learning with Jirawara. Each week we will be having a morning, midday and afternoon session online. To participate in these sessions, you will need to have Zoom installed and set up. Whether you use a webcam or not is completely up to you, and you can always have it on mute so it's there if you want to be seen. You will need some speakers or a headset so that you can hear what I'm saying, and a monitor so you can see what I'm showing. Discord is very handy to have, but not essential to the course. I include it because it's a great place to chill out and chat with fellow students, ask for help, or provide help to others. I've tried my best to set up my Discord server to make it easy to see which text and voice chat rooms are available for each student based on what course they are doing. I actually run a few courses. My suggested daily schedule for students is that I recommend that you get your computer ready before our 9:30 start time. I will often be in before that time to make sure that everything is set up and to see if anyone is having some early morning issues. I recommend that you open up Zoom, open up your email, whether that's Gmail or whatever else you might be using. Open Google Classrooms so you can view the online training material. Week 0, getting connected. By now, you should have gone through the instructions to A, get connected on Google Classrooms, and B, install and set up Zoom and Discord. Once again, Discord is not essential, but it is a nice to have. If not, this would be the time in which we would actually set up each person with additional things. Otherwise, we'll be moving on. Week 0 instructions were emailed to you originally when you signed up for the course. Week 1, introductions and basic computer use. On any given day, you will encounter computer systems in much of what you do, even if you don't realize it. The television channels that you watch, the radio stations that you listen to, the car that you drive in, and even the cash register at the local supermarket are all controlled in some way by computer systems. They help us to perform tasks, keep track of information, and even control the airplanes that fly above us. Throughout the course of this class, you will learn about how computers work, how they can be used to make tasks easier to complete, and how to access the internet, and how to do so safely. We will also be covering topics of safety, privacy and security, the 3 cornerstones of living in a connected world. We're going to start by doing a round of introductions, starting with your instructor. Please share as little or as much as you like. Take the time to write down each student's name and a bit about why they are doing this course in your own note-taking preferences. Once again, whether that's pen and paper or perhaps you're using Microsoft Word. So my name is Paul, and I'm one of the trainers at Jirawara Community and Education Services. I've been doing my job for the last about 5 years now. Prior to that, I have had several jobs in the IT industry. predominantly in help desk, but also in computer maintenance and a few other areas as well. My love of computers came from my father, who brought computers in at an early age. I was born in a time and grew up where computers were just starting to come into the home, so I got to experience some of the earliest home computers. So not so much the large punch card machines, but computers that had large floppy disks and really expensive CD drives, and where the screens were deeper than they were wide. Because of my dad bringing computers into the home, I became very interested in them. During high school, I found that they helped me a lot with my work as well, being that my handwriting is not fantastic, but when you have a computer that can type neatly every time, as well as provide spell checking, I always found it to be very useful. Anatomy of a computer. As with most products, computers are designed in a variety of ways. There are, however, major similarities regardless of the brand of the computer, e.g. Dell, Acer, HP or Lenovo. There are two main types of computers, desktops and laptops. We will discuss both types, but we'll start with desktop computers, which have the following components. We have the monitor. The monitor looks like a television screen and is where you see what is happening on your computer. This next bit's a bit technical, but it's interesting. By using shadows and graphics with over 1 million different colors, much of what you see will appear three-dimensional. And what I mean by three-dimensional is not 3D in terms of you can reach out and sort of touch it, but if you were playing, say, a racing game, you could look like you're driving down a track. The tower. A computer case, also known as a computer chassis, a tower, a system unit, a cabinet, base unit, or simply case, is the enclosure that contains most of the components of a computer, usually excluding the display, keyboard, and mouse. The keyboard. The keyboard is one of the two main ways to interact with your computer. The key should mostly mimic a traditional typewriter. Such devices are referred to as input devices. The mouse. This is the other main way to interact with your computer. Most mice have two buttons, a right and left button, and a scroll wheel. This is the second input device that we will be using for this course. Other input devices could be a scanner, a graphics tablet, a digital camera, or a microphone. Other output devices could be a 3D printer, a projector, or speakers. So an input device is anything that puts information into a computer. When you press a key on the keyboard, the symbol appears on your screen. The screen then outputs that information to you so you can see it. A question that I often get is, another name for the tower another question I get quite a lot is, can I call the tower a CPU? That is not entirely correct to call it a CPU. The CPU is one of the things that would be inside of that tower. During week 7 or 8, I think it's week 7, we will be looking at the computer hardware and actually what's inside a computer. Now that we've looked at desktop computers, let's have a look at the anatomy of a laptop. Laptops have become more powerful in the past few years and allow for completing daily business operations in an on-the-go fashion. Some businesses will use a docked laptop as it is powerful enough to complete simple tasks like email, word processing, and internet browsing, while still having the option to undock, taking said laptop with you to meetings and other sites. So docking and undocking is a situation where you can actually plug your laptop into another physical device that then uses that as the processing power, but then you might have a nice big screen, maybe a keyboard and a mouse. The likelihood of this is dependent on the job type that you have, and you may never need to use one. It is useful, however, to understand the differences between laptops and desktops. The first and foremost is that laptops have their own internal battery, which allows for use away from a power supply whilst the battery is charged. keeping the battery charged but also allow it to fully discharge sometimes. This is actually a really good tip for all mobile devices, whether it's your mobile phone or a tablet, is to allow it to get down really low, like 5% or 10% even, and then charge it up. It's what I call stretching the battery, which allows it to remember how big the battery actually is. The next big difference is that the laptop is designed to have all of the main components contained in a single unit. The case, screen, keyboard and trackpad, which is a pointing device, or once again, an input device, are all contained within the whole laptop. Many laptops also come with a built-in camera and microphone and an optical device, aka a DVD burner or player. You can see in the illustration here, the optical drive being pointed to at the side. Often you can put in a music disc or video disc and play it through your laptop. It should also be noted that the laptop is much easier to use when you add a mouse to use instead of just a built-in trackpad. This is a personal choice, but I find it much easier to navigate with a mouse, especially if you're doing graphic design work of any sort. USB flash drive. A USB or universal serial bus flash drive, also known as a thumb drive, pen drive, jump drive, disk key, disk-on key, flash drive, memory stick or USB, is a data storage device that includes flash memory with an integrated USB interface. That all just means that you can store information on it and you can plug it into a computer. Normally, an 8GB USB flash drive is provided to each student to save their work onto. It should be noted that flash drives are an excellent way to transport data from one computer to another, but should never be the only place that important files are stored. All USB drives should be carefully inserted into the USB port in your computer or device. Some advanced types of USBs, for example Type-C, can be plugged in either orientation, but the ones that we would be using, Type A, can only be plugged in one orientation. We have a few images here that go through just some useful information. We also have other types of USB connectors here. You might have seen some of these in your day-to-day life. There was a time when mobile phone companies were allowed to produce whatever size or shape plug they wanted to, but now we have these sort of conventions. Particularly for sort of the older mobile phones, you probably recognize either the Type A or Type B Mini. I think the Type B is actually a slightly larger one. Type C are usually for the newer phones, and this is not even all of them. You'll notice that if you have an Apple device, your plug's not even sort of listed here. Because we are completing this course online, it is recommended that you save your files somewhere that you will be able to find them again easily. Windows 10 and previous versions create a folder structure for you that makes this task easier. If you click the yellow folder icon in the bottom left of the screen, you will likely see these folders. We have desktop, downloads, documents, pictures, music and video. Documents sounds like a good place to be saving our documents, right? If we double left click on this folder, then right mouse click in a blank area, we get the option to create new. And mousing down over that, we'll get the option to create a new folder. Left mouse click on that and give it a name like Advanced Computers or Office Admin, depending on which course you are doing. If you save all of your work into an appropriately named folder, it will be much easier to find again in the future. The keys on the keyboard. Here we have listed all the keys that appear, not all the keys. Here we have listed most of the keys that we have on a standard computer keyboard. This can be quite different sometimes if you're using a laptop. Sometimes you won't have the number pad on the side on the laptop. Sometimes they're actually integrated into the main body of the keys here. I find that quite difficult to use and like to have a nice big keyboard. The keys that I wanted to draw your attention to, first of all, number 1, backspace key. This deletes letters backward. This is kind of confusing. We can see number 1 here listed here. What I mean by that is if I put what's called my insertion point here at the end of the line, that was insertion point, and I click the backspace key, I will delete letters backwards to the left of it. The next key I wanted to mention is the delete key, which, as it says here, deletes letters forwards. So if I put my cursor here and press the delete key on the keyboard, you can see that number 2 corresponds with the number 2 down here. If I press that delete key, it deletes letters on that side. I'm going to bring those back actually with one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts, Control Z. We'll get to that one later. And the next key is the Shift key, number 3. This key, when pressed with another key, will perform a secondary function. Sounds a little bit confusing. We can see some keyboards will have one on the left and on the right. Not all keyboards have this one on the right. While holding down the Shift key, if you press a letter on the keyboard, you will get the capital letter of that key. If you were to hold down Shift and press the number 4 on top of the keyboard, if you have a look at your keyboard now, you should see a dollar sign there. If you're holding down Shift and you press the number 4, you will get the dollar sign. If I'm not holding Shift, you will get the number 4. Next up is the spacebar. Pressing the spacebar will put space between words or letters. Number 5 is the Tab key. With this key, will indent what you type and move text to the right. That's number 5 here on the diagram. Number 6 is the Caps Lock. The Caps Lock can be thought of like a light switch. When you press it once, it turns it on, and when you press it again, it turns it off. You don't need to go and hold a light switch down to keep the light on. While the Caps Lock is on, any other letter you type will be capitalized. The Control key is a very important key on the keyboard. Number 7, once again, usually you'll have one on both sides of the keyboard, but not always. While this key is being pressed, when you press another key, it'll perform a shortcut. We'll be covering shortcuts later on in the course, but this is a really powerful way to use your keyboard. Enter. This key gives you a new line or executes a command. Press it in a Word program, it will begin a new line. So if I put my insertion point here and press Enter, I go down one line. Press backspace to remove that. Number 9 is the whole number keypad on the right hand side here. These are exactly the same as the numbers on top of the keyboard. Some people find them easier to use in this position. When the num lock is turned off, you can use it for its other functions. What other functions might it have? If you have a look at your keyboard, you should see, for example, that number 7 has the word home written underneath it. If your num lock is turned off and you press that button, instead of doing a number 7, it'll move to the start of a line. Like that. And finally, the arrow keys. Like the mouse, these keys are used to navigate through a document or page. I'm going to press up. I'm going to press up again, up a few times. I can press right, and these are a good way to move around just a little bit without having to take your hand off the keyboard. Very useful. Touch typing. Now, I am not a touch typist, and I am going to say that I am not the best person to be teaching you this. That's a bit of an odd confession to make. My hands kind of fly all over the place and they just kind of go where they're supposed to go. I don't follow the proper touch typing rules, but I'm going to show you a little bit of touch typing so that you get an idea how to do it. Now, you may never need to use this in your life. You might find this interesting and then go, I'm glad I did that, but I'm never doing it again. You might have what's called the chicken mode, which is where you search and peck. You search for the keys and you peck them. That's fine too. Whatever works for you. It's a good idea just to have a go and see what you think. The idea of touch typing is that if you look at your keyboard right now and put your fingers on the F and J key, so that's F for Foxtrot with your left index finger and J for Juliet with your right finger, you will see a little ridge on those keys. You should be able to feel them with your fingers too. If you allow your other fingers to fall onto the keys next to it, your hand should look like it does in the image here. This is called the home row, and the idea for touch typing is that if you wanted to press, for example, the letter R, your left index finger would move up to the R, or your other fingers stay where they are, and then your hand would come back to the position after you've pressed that R key. Here we can see a diagram showing you which key should be pressed by which finger. And here we have a more advanced one that also includes the number pad. We're now going to do an activity for touch typing, which is a great place that you can go and practice. If you should need to have a higher level of touch typing, so a higher words per minute, then this is a site that I recommend you return to and practice on a daily basis. if you practice just a few minutes each day, you will become very quick at typing in a very short period of time. Now, I have one site here that I use for touch typing teaching. There are many others out online. If you actually search for touch typing practice, if you search for something like that online, you will come up with about 15 different sites. So have a try of a few different ones in your spare time. For now, we're going to be using typing study. Instructions: spend 15 minutes typing and learning where the keys are. Try your best not to look at the keyboard during this time. Note: try Typing Club for a more user-friendly experience, but it requires a better computer. Typing Study does not require a decent computer. Typing Club can sometimes be a little bit slow on slower computers. After your 15 minutes, we're going to review how you found this task. Was it harder than you expected? So how did you go with touch typing? Was it easier or harder than you thought? Maybe you've done some before. As I mentioned before, if you don't need it, then how much you practice that is completely up to you. If you're looking to go for something in office administration or reception, then you'd want a certain level of words per minute. For homework, if you want to practice some more, spend another 15 minutes practicing and see how you go. You will find that if you practice just a little bit each day, or even every second day, that you'll be able to improve your typing speed and accuracy pretty quickly. Moving on to mouse skills. If you have one of these mice, you're fine. If you have one of these mice, you've got some problems. Here we have a little chart of the basic mouse controls. This is a good little sort of one-page cheat sheet all about mice. As you can see from the illustrations, a mouse has a left and a right click. If you are right-handed, usually you would hold the mouse in your right hand. For left click, you would use your index finger on your right hand, and for middle click, you would use your middle finger from your right hand. I have seen people use their index finger for both left and right click, so that's completely up to you. An important feature of the mouse is to keep it very still while you're trying to do your left and right click. If you find that the mouse is moving a lot while you're trying to click on things, consider changing your grip. You may like to try placing the front part of your hand onto the mouse, keeping it steady, pushing down on the mouse a little bit before you click. Or if you find this is not working for you, try and hold it as if you were a bird with something in its claws, without only putting a few fingers on the mouse. One of the shortcuts that we often use, but sometimes less often these days, is the double left click. This one is used for opening a program or executing a shortcut. All mice have a scroll wheel located between the left and right mouse click buttons. We can use this to move up and down in a document. I'm using it right now to move down and up. Moving the mouse wheel away from you will scroll up. Putting it down will scroll down. Obviously, moving the mouse from side to side and round moves the cursor around. To highlight something, you can use the click and drag. I can't actually do that in this thing. I will be demonstrating that later. But basically, you put your cursor in one place, you hold down left click, and you drag to the other side of something. Some mice have programmable buttons that you can tell to perform different functions. And one of my favorite shortcuts exists when using a mouse. We mentioned before when we were talking about the keyboard that when you hold down the control key and do something else, you'll perform a shortcut. If you hold down the control key and scroll the mouse wheel, you will actually zoom in or zoom out. That's very handy. And once again, just a slightly larger view of the mouse there as well. To practice the mouse, I've got a great site here. I actually need to change this to not just Solitaire or other game. Come on. So we have a website here. You can either search for cardgames.io or you can type in the full address, www.cardgames.io. And on this site, you will be presented with several different games you can play that only need the mouse to use. You should see something there that you might have seen before. Even if you haven't played a lot of computer games, there are games there like checkers and chess as well. Once again, spend a few minutes having a go on the site and see how you found using the mouse. Now for some people, using the mouse is second nature. Other people, you might not have used it much before. So this will be an interesting exercise and see how people went. Once again, for homework, spend another 15 minutes practicing your mouse skills. Your Windows desktop. So let's talk about your desktop. It's designed a bit like a real desktop, covered in all of your possessions and memories, or at least mine is. There's a few useful things here too. You have a clock and calendar down here, number 1 on the diagram, pointing down to the bottom right hand corner of your screen. If you left mouse click on it once, it opens up the computer's calendar. Nope, don't try and set reminders here, that's not what it's for. You might also see icons along the bottom, number 2 on the image here. These are visual references to programs that are installed on your computer. If you left mouse click, just once, on one of them, it will open that program. If the program was already open, it will either minimize or maximize. More on that later. You will find the start button down here as well, number 3 on the picture, down the very bottom left hand corner of your screen. This whole section is called your taskbar and is a useful space that aids in switching between different tasks or programs. Some of the programs you have installed might show up down here on the taskbar, but not all will. In fact, you wouldn't want all of them down here, it'll get way too crowded. I use this space to pin a few programs that I use a lot, or that I want to have super quick access to, or for programs that my family need to use and can have access to without having to go looking for them. It should also be noted that the screenshots here have a lot more in them than the desktops in front of you right now. They may or may not, depending on how your computer is set up. The computers here, when we're working in the rooms at GeoWire, have all those colourful boxes removed. Those are there by default, but many people disable them or remove them. Finally, for this section, a discussion about OH&S, Occupational Health and Safety. Whether in a modern office or at home, a computer is a common and essential tool for work and play. However, it can cause a variety of injuries to its user. Occupational Overuse Syndrome, or OOS, also known as Repetitive Strain Injury, or RSI, is a condition that can be caused by a mixture of poor ergonomics, repetitive motion, stress, and poor posture. Symptoms of OOS often include swelling, numbness, restricted movement, and weakness in or around muscles and tendons in the back, shoulder, neck, elbow, wrist, hands, or fingers. It may become difficult to hold objects or tools in the hands, affecting your ability to function and work at home. Symptoms can vary from person to person and may often involve more than one part of the body. The more a keyboard, or mouse for that fact, is used, the higher the risk of OOS-related injuries. This does not mean that people should not use a keyboard extensively in their work. However, job design and adjustable equipment and furniture are important considerations for people who use computers for extensive periods of time. The following steps help to ensure workers get maximum comfort from their monitor, keyboard, and mouse. For the monitor, incorrect positioning of the screen and source documents can result in awkward positions. Adjust the monitor and source documents so that the neck is in a neutral and relaxed position. Center the monitor directly in front of you, above your keyboard. Set the screen distance to approximately an arm's length, which is about 350 to 750 millimeters. Set the height of the monitor so that the top third of the screen is at eye level and the bottom of the screen can be read without having to incline your head. If you wear bifocals, lower the monitor to a comfortable reading level. Place screens at right angles or 90 degrees to windows. That means you should have windows to your sides, if preferably, not behind you or in front of you. Adjust curtains or blinds as needed. Adjust the vertical screen angle and the screen controls to minimize the glare from overhead lights. Other techniques to reduce glare include the use of glare filters, light filters, secondary task lights. Position your source documents correctly in front of you, between the monitor and the keyboard using a stand. For the keyboard should be detached from the screen. Place the keyboard at the front edge of the desk so that it is within range of your hands without straightening your elbows. Place the keyboard in a position that allows your forearms to be at a 90-degree angle and that the wrists be straight, hand in line with the forearms. You never want to have your wrist bent backwards or bent down. That's just a recipe for disaster. Determine which section of the board you use most frequently and adjust the keyboard so that the section is centered with your body. The keyboard angle should sit flat on the desk to help maintain a straight wrist position. Wrist rests can help to maintain neutral positions and pad hard surfaces. However, the wrist rest should only be used to rest the palms of the hands between keystrokes. Resting on the wrist rest while typing is not recommended. Wrist rests are primarily for periods of rest between bouts of typing. Now, see, here's what I also disagree with that. Some people say that you should have your keyboard right up against the edge of the desks and your hands should basically be floating. I've always found it more comfortable to have my hands resting on the space in front of my keyboard. So that's something we can discuss more later. For your mouse, position the mouse as close as possible to the keyboard. Avoid reaching over the keyboard to use your mouse. Don't squeeze or grip the mouse between your thumb and pinky. Your hands should be relaxed, not tense when using the mouse. Work with your shoulders relaxed. Keep your arms close by your side. Keep your wrist in a straight or neutral position. Lightly supporting your forearm on your armrest or desk can help to keep your shoulder relaxed. Do not twist or move your wrist from side to side, up and down when working. Keep your hand relaxed. Move the mouse with the whole arm using the elbow as a pivot point, keeping your wrist in a straight and neutral position. Do not hold your pointing device with a tight grip. When using the pointing device, when not using the pointing device, let it go. Keep your fingers relaxed on the buttons without inadvertently pressing them. Keep your thumb relaxed. Do not keep your thumb in a bent position when using the mouse. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind there, and some of them I think is a very individual thing. I personally prefer to have my wrists resting on the bench, but you should give them a try and see what works best for you. We have a section here on taking a break. I'm not going to read through all of this one at the moment in this section. The basic concept is that every 15 minutes you should take a look away from your computer screen. If you look at your computer screen for too long, your eyes will never need to change focus. And an easy way to fix that is to find something that's the furthest thing that you can see. So look out a window or look down the hall. If you're at work, there should be some sort of window that you can look out of. Take short breaks where you get up from your work desk and walk around, whether you go and make a phone call or grab yourself a drink. Every 30 to 60 minutes you should take a slightly longer break, and you should also do some stretching and exercise. I'm going to be providing an additional video and set of handouts about other exercises that you can do, because this is sort of a very important topic and quite a large one too. We also have mentioned here of sit-stand desks and other ergonomic products. You can get a special desk that is adjustable so that you can work from a standing position. Here we have some images about our HNS. As you can see, the recommended position to have your wrists floating in the air. Once again, I don't find that particularly comfortable, but I recommend you give it a try and see what works for you. A really important one here is thighs slightly tilted, which in effect make sure that you're not too pinched here in the hip or in the knees either. You really want to make sure you're comfortable when sitting. Make sure you've got good back support and that you've got a good position with the eyes. Here we can see an alternate mouse that is actually held in a vertical position or handshake position. It's designed to be a more ergonomic and natural position for your hand. Over here we can see a keyboard that has a special gel pad for the wrist as well. Obviously this one's got some interesting controls on it too.